everybody, Sky Marshall here in the Lion's Den, bringing you a quick summary of January 1943. Turn 14 has come to an end, and I want to give you some of the major highlights that has gone on in this game right now. Currently, right now, there's been a bit of devastation in the Mediterranean, and I guess we can zoom in on that first right now. The Regia Aeronautica and the Regia Marina left port off the coast there in the Tyrrhenian Sea, as well as its Air Force left Tobruk and ambushed the British Navy here in the Battle of Ibiza. And currently right now, this is what remains of the Italian fleet. The Italian fleet has sunk, as well as the Italian Air Force. All of this. The two battleships, two French battleships and two British battleships, as well as three heavy cruisers and two light cruisers, destroyers, escorts, everything has gone to the bottom of the Mediterranean. The Richelieu took 3 torpedo hits on her port bow. The Gascon took 1 on port and starboard. King George V was already damaged, and all it took was just 1 torpedo hit by their tactical bomber there, sinking her to the bottom. And the Duke of York, once again, took 2 torpedo hits from their medium bombers, and port side and starboard side rocked her, and she capsized. The Furious, well, there wasn't much there. Surface ships took her out. Gunshots got below the waterline, and she sank in a matter of minutes. So that concludes the end of all 3 light carriers, the Furious, the Courageous, and the Eagle, as well as all 3 battleships, King George V, the Duke of York, and the Prince of Wales. The Prince of Wales still exists up here. I was thinking of the Repulse that was still alive earlier on in the game and got sunk. And the remnants of the remaining French fleet has gone to the bottom as well. Dorchester, Sussex, and Norfolk all succumbed to surface fire. Ajax and Neptune didn't have much of a chance, as well as their escorts as well. A very devastating day for the British Empire. It has literally neutered their navy. And this has obviously caused concerns for the Germans, or for the Russians, and obviously for the Americans, because the nice balance of that was destroyed by the success of the Italian Navy. And hats off to them. They did lose some ships, though. They lost the Pola, the Alpino, the destroyer, and two coastal submarines, as well as a few aircraft, a seaplane, and the tactical bomber. But basically, there wasn't much for casualties in comparison. So congratulations to Silk and Panzer J for the decisive defeat against the British and French in the Battle of Ibiza. And I tip my hat to you, sir. Very, very well done. Those lucky dice, right? Anyways, moving on. What has happened? Well, Italy is consolidated their gains in Egypt. They've actually moved their forces down here from Italy, Somaliland into Tanganyika, comprising of 4 infantry and a cavalry. And obviously they're trying to stop the French expansion, especially with the new rail being built in Obangachari. And we'll have to see what happens. And the Germans, the Africa Corps, still down here and has done absolutely nothing on top of that. So we'll have to see what happens with this. But right now, North Africa, as well as a bit of East Africa, is owned by Axis powers. In the Middle East, the Soviets have dominated Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria, and also the fall of Istanbul was complete. I took 1 extra casualty off, so I restored the airborne that was there that did take Istanbul, because I only actually lost 1 casualty with the empty fort. And now the Turks have come to the realization that communism is the new way of light, as well as we got an extra transport here as part of our bonuses of taking Istanbul, and thereby securing Victory Point for now anyways. And over here in India, well, you can see the Japanese and Far East Command are puffing out their chests The Russians did not advance any further into India. They obviously are getting too far spread out, and that's where they're going to stay, or at least for now, for the sizable part of the game. The Japanese did consolidate some territories and did land and have conquered and taken the eastern seaboard, as well as Kwangtung, putting pressure on the Chinese, the KMT mainly. So the KMT have pivoted and moved down south here to deal with the Japanese problem, which is definitely understandable, because the CCP, despite what it looks like, is in no shape or form to attack anybody right now. They've had a pretty slow game, not much thanks to the KMT this game. Japanese shipping did some minor raiding overall, submarines and raiding, but not a whole lot going on. I believe this French submarine, the Acheron, has actually gone further south down here, I believe. I forgot to move that. Somewhere down here off the coast of Australia. And yeah, the bulk of the Japanese Navy is, well, right here, as you can see in Sea Zone P41. And that is in the Palau Islands right here, and a very good striking point with the carriers, battleships, destroyers, and cruisers. Here, though, off the coast of P41, they have a sizable surface fleet, along with all their transports here when they took Kwangtung, and a few more surface vessels down further south. And they built another navy. They completed 2 more light carriers, the Zuho and the Ryujo, as well as the destroyers and submarines. Now have joined that little navy. Now, interesting fact, the Americans, reports are vague, but I think they have left the Hawaiian waters and Midway waters and headed south down to Samoa, and it looks like their entire fleet, comprising of 2 carriers, 5 battleships, 5 heavy cruisers, 3 light cruisers, and I think 8 destroyers, is down here off the coast, massing, possibly for the retaking of Sydney. And we can only assume that because the Bonefish and the Scorpion are off the coast of Tasmania, and further north the Hammerhead and Legato are protecting the U.S. Navy flanks in that area. So we could soon see the liberation of Sydney, if that is going to be happening. And we'll see what happens down there. They even brought down a sizable Air Force on their fleets, or fleet deck carriers, as well as down here a fighter and a strategic bomber. So we'll see the liberation of Australia, no doubt, soon. And they've reinforced with more attack transports. And up in here, that is basically been the highlights in the Pacific currently right now. Not much has happened in Manchukuo or on this front. The Russians did get jet fighters a few turns ago and finally built some, so they've started to put an Air Force in certain areas around the map, and we'll head on up to the top part and show you what's going on there. The Russian Air Force is spread out all through the map, from Norway to Turkey to Iran, even in the Far East now. And we have put 2 jet fighters for home defense, 1 in Leningrad, 1 in Smolensk. We also built the fabled T-34s right here, which are now cheap tanks for our use on whatever enemy we come up against. And that's about it. We built another transport here with the main bulk of the Russian Navy here. Sovietsky Soyuz, the Russian battleship, joined the Stalingrad and the Ismail, linked up with their fleet here off the coast in Norway. And consequently, right now, we're looking at a German Navy, probably of a sizable comparison, especially if you factor in their Air Force, against a possible American threat, and the remnants of the British Empire, which all remains as the Prince of Wales as their capital ship, with a few escorts here and there. So we'll see what they have to do. The German subs are still causing havoc, and look at the millions of tons of shipping being sunk here. So they're going to have to do something about that for sure, and we'll see what the Germans plan for next turn. On top of that, I think that's pretty much it in a brief summary. It's been a good turn for the Axis, a mute turn for the Soviets, and probably not the best turn for the Allies. But a lot can change here as we go into July of 1943. Anyways, guys, quick summary. Take care, and we'll see what happens next turn. check out Silk for 15.1.